Yes, about the punches now. Well, to be honest, I don't know what the NATO Secretary General says there. When he was Prime Minister of Norway, we talked with him and solved difficult issues on the Barents Sea and others. And, in general, they could negotiate. At that time, I'm just sure he didn't suffer from any dementia. If he talks about the possibility of striking Russian territory with high-precision long-range weapons, he, as a person who heads a military political organization, although he is a civilian like me, but he still needs to know that high-precision long-range weapons cannot be used without space reconnaissance means. The final choice of the target and the so-called flight task can only be made by highly qualified specialists. On the basis of this intelligence, technical intelligence. If by one shock system, by such as Storm Shadow, these tasks can be entered automatically, flight tasks, without any presence of Ukrainian servicemen. Who does this? This is done by those who produce, and those who allegedly supply these shock systems to Ukraine. In general, without participation, it can and does happen without the participation of Ukrainian servicemen. And other systems, well, for example, such as ATACMS, are also being prepared, formulated, brought automatically to the appropriate calculations on the basis of space intelligence. They may not even understand what they are introducing. And the calculation, maybe the Ukrainian calculation, introduces the corresponding flight task. This task is being prepared not by Ukrainian servicemen, but by representatives of NATO countries. But so, these representatives of NATO countries, especially in Europe, especially in small countries, they should generally be aware of what they are playing with. They should remember that this is, as a rule, a state with a small territory, with a very dense population. And this is a factor that they should keep in mind before talking about striking deep into Russian territory. This is a serious matter, and we are, of course, watching it very carefully. Everything is now going on around the events on the approaches to Kharkov. So it was they who provoked these events in this direction. I think I publicly said 6 months ago that if they continue to strike residential areas, neighborhoods, we will then have to create security zones. And just recently I said so. We have moved on to this. At first, they provoked us in the Donbas, led us to the Zans for 8 years, deceived us that they were allegedly going to solve the issue peacefully. And they forced us to make attempts to bring the situation to peace in an armed way. Then they deceived us during the negotiation process, decided that they would defeat Russia on the battlefield and inflict a strategic defeat. Then we warned them, do not climb into our territory, and do not shell Belgorod and other adjacent territories. Otherwise, we will have to surrender the security zone. Here's a look at all the reports of your Western colleagues. After all, no one is talking about the shelling of Belgorod and other adjacent territories. Everyone is talking only about the fact that Russia has opened a new front, attacking Kharkiv. Not a word. What is the reason for this? They did it with their own hands. Then they squeeze out the fruits of their creativity. The same thing can happen in the case of the use of high-precision long-range weapons, which you asked about. And in general, this constant escalation can lead to serious consequences. If these serious consequences occur in Europe, how will the United States behave, bearing in mind our priority? In the field of strategic weapons, it's hard to say, do they want a global conflict? It seems to me that they wanted to negotiate in the field of strategic weapons, but we don't see much desire to do this. There are conversations on this score, but we don't seem to see a great desire. Well, let's see what happens next.